Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name's Nicole and this is Darvanalee Designs Studio, and today we are here for block Y in our A to Z Quilt Block Challenge for 2023. We are down to the wire. We've only got one more block to go after this one. Today, I thought I'd make it a nice simple one. This one's called You and Me. And yes, it does look like an X, so we could have very well used it last week. But I decided that this was our Y one because it's you and me, and the little arrows are going into the little blocks. So yeah, so that is what we're making today. So for your free downloadable cutting instructions, that is linked up down below. Make sure you click on that. You can use that on your device or you can print it off. Either way, you're going to need 3 fabrics today, a background fabric and 2 contrasting fabrics. And because we're in December still, I thought I would go with some Christmas colors. All right, so once you've got your sheet, you want to cut out all of your fabrics. Okay, now we are going to be working with half square triangles today with our largest squares, so make sure that you've got them cut to the right size. I have allowed for a little extra fabric for trimming up. All right, you're also going to need some 6 1/8 strips. Now these are for the large block that we're making, which is a 15-inch block. This is going to make a perfect centerpiece for your table or something along those lines. That's what you can use it for. And then we're also going to need some 9 7/8 by 3 3/8 strips. So once you've cut them out of your background, you're also going to need a couple of squares in background and green fabric, and these are 3 3/4. And again, I have allowed the extra fabric for making the half square triangles, so set them aside because that's what we're going to work on first. And then we need our smaller squares, which are in the center of our block, that make our 9 patch and cornerstones. As you can see here, we have a 9 patch and cornerstones. We are going to basically sew that together in just a bit, but first off, we are going to start with our half square triangles. You're also going to need your general sewing supplies, so something to mark the back of your half square triangles, some thread snips, a quick and a peek just in case. You're going to need some pins. Now, I do have a list of everything that I am using here today, if not the equivalent for it, down below. So make sure you check out those links for any of those, including my favorite pins, which are my fork pins. And you may have noticed that we have a new cutting board in the background as well, and I'm also filming in a different place. I have given up using my phone and now just using what I have available on my computer with some booms and all that sort of stuff. So I hope you like the new view. This is what the view we're going to have going into 2024. All right, so I have had a couple of questions, just to touch on this briefly. I've had a couple of questions about the blocks next year, if I'm going to include the smaller ones. At this stage, I'm going to say no. It was a lot of extra work for me, and so I'm still thinking on it. Let's just put it that way. I'm still thinking on it. All right, so get all your fabrics together and get them cut. We are working with the 9-inch, with the 15-inch today. Now I do have here, for those that are doing the let me just have a look. I do have the 9-inch pattern here scribbled all over. When you square up your half square triangles, you're going to square them up to 2 1/4. Okay, so write that down now. 2 1/4, the half square triangles will get squared up for the 9-inch block. Okay, now when you finish this block, it should measure 9.5 inches before it's in the quilt. The 9-inch is when it's in the quilt. There has also been some questions about that in the last few days as well. All right, so we have all of our supplies and everything. Now what we're going to do is, oh, and you need a couple of rulers and a 9 and a 9ing pad as well. What we're going to do is take our light fabric, whichever that fabric might be for you, and we're just going to mark on the back of this fabric, corner to corner. We're going to mark a line, and then we're going to sew a 1/4 inch seam on either side of that line. Okay, so just draw a line. You probably can't see that very well because it's very, very pale. Make sure you're doing it on the right side of your fabric. I have done that on the wrong side myself. All right, so once you've done that, we're going to take our green fabric, so you can set your pen aside, take our green fabric, and we're going to place our fabrics right sides together. And if you've been around for a while, you do know that I like to press my seams open. Okay, so I like to also reduce my stitch length down. Okay, that is one thing that I like to do. And then we're just going to sew it through our sewing machine using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And basically you're going to sew on either side of that line. Okay. And I like to have my needle in the down position because then I can chain piece my pieces through. Okay, so once we've sewn those together, we're just going to snip those apart. Okay, and I like to just give my little pieces a press before I cut them. Just gets that seam to relax a little bit. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to basically just cut straight on that line. Okay, and we're going to cut our 2 half square triangles apart. And then, as I said, I like to press my seams open, so I'll just finger press these before I put them to the iron. Okay, so now that we've pressed these all open, what we're going to do is we're going to trim them up. Now, for our 15-inch one, we need to trim these up to 3 3/8, okay, because they need to match our strips that we have here. And for our 9-inch one, we need to square that up to 2 1/4, okay? So just be aware that that's what you need to do. And we've done these plenty of times before, but if you're new here, I like to use my OmniGrid ruler that has a nice 45-degree angle each way. And basically what I do is I lay that 45-degree angle onto the seam, so where the 2 fabrics meet. And as I said, we're going to square up the 15-inch one because that's the block I'm working on, is 3 3/8. So you can see here they're quite large, okay, and there is room to trim these up. You might not need to take a much off at all, okay, if any. And you're just going to line that up, and 9 times out of 10 you're just taking the dog ears off, okay, as you can see there. All right, so I'm going to continue doing that, and then I just spin it around, and then I've got my nice edge, and we've got 1 2 3, 1 2 3, and everything is lining up nicely. And again, as I said, we do not need to take too much off this one, as you can see, just a little bit there. All right, so once you've done that, we're going to repeat that for the remainder, and when we come back, we'll start assembling our block in the center, which is our 9 patch. Okay, so we've trimmed those up. You can set your ruler aside now, and next what we're going to do is create our 9 patch. So set our half square triangles aside, and then we're just going to lay out our little squares. Okay, so you can see there that we're creating a 9 patch. Now all I'm going to do is I'm going to chain piece down one side, and then I will add on to the end of that. And again, we're going to use a 1/4 inch seam allowance, and we're going to chain piece these through. Okay, so we now have our 9 patch ready to sew the rows together. So we're going to lay them right sides together using our fork pins or straight pins if that's all you have. I like the fork pins because I find that my pieces don't move very much. And I'm just going to line up my raw edges and then pop in my fork pin. And I'm going to focus on my seams to make sure that they are lining up. Okay, and then basically I will double check to make sure that they are lining up. Sometimes I have a bad habit of moving things. Now I'm going to head to the sewing machine and I'm going to use a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Okay, so now we have our half square triangles done and our 9 patch. The next thing that we need to do is take our little strips and 2 of our red squares, and we're going to add 2 onto each of our strips, so 1 on each side. And I'm just going to chain piece this through. Okay, so our next step is to just trim off all your long threads, set them aside. Take 2 of your white large ones. Okay, and we're going to add our half square triangles onto these, and we're going to have our triangles going as if it's going into the corner, okay? And we're going to chain piece these through as well. Okay, so now what we're going to do is assemble our block. So laying down your pieces in the order that they need to go in, okay? Okay, so we've got everything laid out. You've got your instruction sheet to show you what the layout is. So you can see there, we've got our little picture. All right, just make sure everything is going the direction that you need it to be. And we're going to start in our center with our center block, and we're going to add our 2 strips on to the sides. Okay, and we'll just do one side at a time, and we're going to press our seams open all the way around. Okay. Next, what we're going to do is add our next pieces on, and we need to line up our seams. So we'll place them right sides together, and we're going to focus on those seams first. We're not going to worry about the raw edges or anything right now. Making sure that you are lining up your raw edges at the seam point, and then pop that fork pin in, and then we'll come to the next one. Okay, because this will pretty much take care of itself. Of course, we are going to put a few flat pins in just to help us hold everything in place so it doesn't get too wonky. All right, so you can see there that we've got a nice, our seams are lining up really nicely, and double check to make sure that they are. Sometimes they can move on you when you're putting the pins in, and we don't want that. All right, so I'm pretty comfortable with how everything is looking, but I've got these 2 seams here on the 9 patch, so I'm just going to pop a pin into each one of those, and I'm just going to use my flat pins for that. And then I'm going to head to the sewing machine using a 1/4 inch seam allowance and stitch that down. Okay, so we have pressed that all open, and now what we're going to do is add our side pieces on. Just like we did with the center, we're going to work with our side pieces, and then we'll add our half square triangle piece on last. All right, so again, just right sides together, lay them raw edges matching up, and using a 1/4 inch seam allowance and stitching that through. Okay, so we've pressed all of our seams open, and now all we need to do is add our last 2 rows on, which are our half square triangles. And again, we're just going to line up our seams, make sure that everything is lining up, and then use a 1/4 inch seam allowance, and then our block, it will be done. Okay, so that is the You and Me block. It is block Y in the A to Z Quilt Block Challenge. I love this block. It makes a great centerpiece for any table, and it's also a great scrap busting one as well, especially if you've got a lot of one color for backgrounds, and then you've just got a couple of these little blocks that you can get, and you can make it as scrappy as you want. All right, so that is it for me today. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and also hit that subscribe button. It's free to do so, and it helps support my channel. And if you're looking for some bonus content, be sure to check out our Patreon. We have 4 tiers over there. There is sure to be something there for you. As I said, that is it for me today. Have a wonderful day, everybody, and I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.